Ladies and gentlemen and all genders outside and in between, welcome back to Thirsty Work, the all-new podcast around sex, sex education, and a little bit of hedonism. Tonight, my guest is the glorious Becca Beckery. That's Thirsty Work. How are you doing, you beautiful individuals? Welcome on in. Welcome back to Thirsty Work, the wonderful hedonistic podcast, and my glorious guest this evening is, of course, the beautiful Becca Beckery, who we're having technical... It's okay, you're back with us. We're back with us. We're okay. Only mild technical issues. I mean, to be fair, there's a giant storm going on, so that's entirely fair. Becca, would you do me a favor and give yourself a quick, cheeky little introduction there? What is it you do? Say hi to everyone.
My name is Becca. My pronouns are she, they. I am an Irish content creator, mainly for education on the LGBTQIA plus community and disabled community, while raising money for charity.
Huzzah! What charities have you recently been raising money for?
The last one we raised money for was Safe in Our World, a UK mental health charity. They do
Love to see it.
Incredible stuff.
Love to see it. That's what we're all about. And before we go any further, people that are watching this live on Twitch, don't forget that you can use your channel points to ask questions, which we will answer at the end. And if any questions don't get answered, then we will make sure to refund you. So don't worry about all of that. Okay? Okay. One of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on here, Becca Beckery, is because you are quite open. You're an open book, aren't you? In regards to pretty much everything, really.
Yes.
Every single time that I've been into your streams or seen you in other people's streams, you're just a very easygoing, just like, this is the way my life is, and I'm happy about that. And one of those things, as I've previously discussed, is the fact that you are asexual yourself.
I am, yes.
Yay! Now, asexuality fascinates me because It's of all of the sexualities, I feel like it's the one that I know the least about, and I also feel like it's the one that I am probably if all of the sexualities were on one spectrum, I'm like the opposite end. Like I'm a hedonistic filth wizard, and then you've got asexuality, and I've met loads of wonderful asexual friends, wonderful ace friends, I believe is the name for them on the street.
Yes. The shorthand, yeah.
The shorthand, yeah, which is great because I love that. I love that just because it... Originally, I was just like, okay, asexuality is about, you just don't have a sex drive by any stretch of imagination. Yeah. And then I found out that that's not the case at all.
Nope.
By any stretch of the imagination, which is mind-blowing to... What is asexuality to you?
So I'm very... Specifically, I'm demisexual, which... means I don't feel sexual attraction unless I have a strong emotional bond with somebody.
Okay.
Other than that, my brain's just not at all. But I know that for some people, for some demisexuals, they could have a high sex drive or a low sex drive, none at all. Some could be sex repulsed, sex positive, sex neutral, all that kind of stuff. So it definitely varies person to person. But for me, I'm sex positive. I don't have a sex drive really. Kind of just, it is what it is.
But do you have a sex drive when, you have that emotional connection?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. It doesn't really happen that often.
Okay.
Even if I have a strong emotional bond, it doesn't necessarily guarantee a sexual attraction. But if it's just sometimes, I guess.
'Cause I knew demisexuality was around the emotional bond side of things, being attracted to somebody on an emotional level, and that's what gives you that drive to be with them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure, and I knew it connected somehow to asexuality, but I wasn't sure in regards to how that worked.
Yeah.
Interesting. I find that stuff really fascinating because, like I say, I'm a colossal filth wizard. I'm just debauched in every way, shape, and form, you know. So when did you realize that was a part of you, or was it something that you when you were growing up? Was it a scenario where you were just I don't understand why I'm not quite like everybody else, or were you just like, do you know what, this is just the way I am?
I definitely grew up feeling like there was something different
Okay.
because I was like, obviously, all of my friends were getting into relationships, and that wasn't really how my brain worked. I didn't even want a relationship at the time. So, obviously, in the whole, like, especially going into secondary school, everyone's everyone's already had the talk, all that. Well, Irish Catholic school, the talk is like not that much.
Did you get like sex education in school?
Barely. I'm not
Barely.
even kidding you when I tell you they showed us a video that said when a man and a woman love each other very much, they hug in a special way.
I thought that was like an old 70s thing. I don't realize. Really? They still showed that?
Yeah. Like
Oh my
I'm
Lord.
25. That was what I was shown when I was 12.
That's amazing. Suddenly I feel suddenly I feel like I'm like my sex education was amazing. Like I had a biology teacher who was just like, okay, we're going to talk about scientific terms, and if you use the scientific terms, then I will answer your questions.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, this is the hilarious thing. Like, I've English Catholic school, but the hilarious thing about there is the stereotypical like view of Irish Catholic sex education, and that exactly what you said is exactly the stereotype.
So like, especially because we got taught nothing. Like, we didn't get taught about STIs. We didn't get taught how to use condoms. Nothing. Literally nothing. Like, everything that I know from the internet.
So was that something
that's where I got mine.
You explored then, in regards to like just wanting to know more about sex?
Yeah, pretty much. Especially like with friends, because I'm open. At the time I wasn't open to talking about it. Like, I felt embarrassed to talk about it because, especially growing up, being taught like just stay away from that kind of stuff.
Down with that sort of thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's just like, so I felt embarrassed to talk about it or to even like hear about it. But for the majority, I was like, there's some YouTube channels that I followed when I was like 16, 17, growing up, who did other videos, but also did videos on like sex ed, that I learned mostly from them. And also friends that just were just open to talk about like their own experiences, that kind of stuff.
I
Also feel like it's better to learn from experiences.
I mean,
from other people's experiences.
Yeah, it made sense. I was that friend just because I was fascinated by the entire concept of. I think maybe because of the fact that it was so taboo. Like Irish Catholic brought up English Catholic. I was very much like I viewed sex as like the great unknown, an adventure from across the seas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like I was like, oh my god, I need to know so much more about this.
I want to know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because as well, it was taboo. It was that like the great thing that we weren't allowed to do, and the more that, especially growing up Catholic, and this might be something that you resonate with, the more that people like harshed down on it, the more interested I was.
Yeah. I was the same.
It was.
Like, I was more on the side of like, I didn't want to talk about it with other people because I thought that they would, make fun of me for it, especially not knowing things. Like, when we watched the video when we were 12, they literally handed around a piece of paper to everyone. Not a single person signed it. Even if you didn't have a question, you pretended to write something and like folded it and put it in a box so the teacher would like take it out. And there would be no names. They would just read out the questions and answer the questions. But people would laugh at them, so nobody wanted to ask actual questions. So nobody learned anything. Even though it was
anonymous, you didn't want to ask the question just because you...
Yeah, because like if your question was read out and somebody laughed at it, you'd know that they were laughing at you for asking that question, even though if they don't know that they were laughing at you. I don't know if that makes sense. But nobody asked a question.
I feel it kind of does make sense because you know that the question was yours, and therefore, like, you would still feel that, I don't know, pseudo embarrassment almost.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's like, so nobody wanted to ask any like actual questions. Most people just put joke questions.
So was that
like,
that? Yeah. I can
course.
imagine. I can imagine the joke questions that came out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. What was the most entertaining question that you remember?
I literally don't remember any of them.
All right.
I know that obviously people would be like, ask like they would. Most of them would just say like just penis. They would just say penis
Just
in all caps.
There's a very angry teacher stood up at the front. No, I can't believe. Really? Again? There is nothing funny about the word penis. Come on now. Amazing. Amazing. And so was that something like that as you were growing older, obviously exploring things yourself and talking with your friends and looking at YouTube videos on sex education, was that the point where you were just like, do you know what, I don't like feel the same way that these things are like the way that these videos are talking?
Yeah, pretty much. And I didn't know a term for, I didn't know asexuality was a thing at all. I didn't even know there was a spectrum for it, especially because obviously Catholic school, you only get taught about being straight and that's it. That's all you get taught about.
Yep.
So obviously I didn't know anything about it. So I actually found it on Twitter, of all places. I found out about it on Twitter.
Okay.
And I think I was 16 at the time.
Okay. All right.
So
that was my next question. Was just what was the next? What age were you? So 16-ish.
Yeah. So 16 was when I found out about the term demisexuality specifically. Okay. And that was like genuinely, like, you know, the way the metaphor of like a weight lifted off your shoulder. Like that's literally what it felt like, because I genuinely felt like there was something wrong with me for years. Because I was just like, because especially talking about that kind of stuff to like friends and only to friends, they were kind of just like, yeah, that's kind of weird, or maybe you should get your hormones checked, that kind of stuff, which I've done. They're perfectly fine. So there's no excuse for people to be like, get your hormones checked, which I still get. Shockingly.
But this is the thing. If you don't, I suppose if you don't have the foreknowledge that asexuality is a thing, that demisexuality is a thing, then it's not like you would think that might be an option.
Yeah,
you would think there's something wrong because I am not behaving the same way that other people are behaving. Yeah,
which is exactly why I like talking about it so much. And I know before I had moved into this house, I had my flag behind me all the time. So anytime somebody would like come into streams or anything like that, they would ask like, what's the flag behind you? And I'd get to mention it to them, and I'd introduce them to that too, because they wouldn't know what it was beforehand.
For those people that are listening, that's the asexuality flag that you have behind you in your room.
Yes. So like I've had so many people, I even made a thread on Twitter of like the different like titles, I guess, of the asexual spectrum. I think it was like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so many people, I had gotten so many DMs of people being like, I didn't know asexuality was a thing, or I knew asexual was a thing, but I didn't know there was a spectrum for it. I didn't know that this specific label suits me exactly, and that kind of stuff. And that made me genuinely really happy, because a lot of them were younger as well. And I really wish that I had read that when I was younger, so I didn't have to feel like that throughout the entirety of school, especially because in school you get made fun of for not being in a relationship a lot.
You get made fun of for anything they can find a way to make fun of you for it. Like that is definitely a lesson I learned in school. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. They will find a way to make fun of you. So okay, no, carry on.
No, I was gonna say so with that, like just knowing that talking, even like obviously I know everyone doesn't use labels, and if somebody isn't comfortable using a label, they absolutely do not have to. The label's mainly there for educational purposes, I guess, so like there's a label for this, like this is, you're like, there's nothing wrong with you, this is just who you are.
Just I'm
like
definitely
the fact that like the opposite end.
Oh no,
sorry,
you go. I was about to say, I'm very much one of those people that hates labels, but what I will say is that my experience on Twitch and live streaming and the community that has built up around that has taught me the importance of labels. I think For
Yeah.
me, the importance of labels is self-discovery.
Yeah,
Knowing that you're
absolutely.
not alone, knowing that that there are other people out there that are just like you, and then from that point you can then get comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important, because if you're sat there being like, well, I'm not attracted to all of these people that apparently I should be attracted to, you kind of start to feel like everything's wrong and something's going on. What's happening, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's kind of like the way that, like, on the opposite end of asexual, on the asexual spectrum, is allosexual, which is that you do feel sexual attraction no matter what. Like, you don't have to have, there's no specific guidelines, I guess. Like, it's just the opposite end of asexual.
Is that just like sexual attraction to everyone and anyone? Just
pretty much. Like, it could, like, like, for example, like, just straight people. Like, because if you use aromantic or asexual, aromantic being that you don't feel romantic attraction, then I was going somewhere with that. My mind went blank.
No, it's all right. It's okay. Well, I mean, we can talk about like the fact that that is a difference, because this is something that a lot of people don't realize, is the fact that you can have a specific sexuality and then a specific romantic affiliation. So you could be asexual but biromantic, which is you don't have a specific sex drive, or you are somewhere within the asexual spectrum, but in regards to like romance and intimacy on a personal level with somebody, it could be with any of the genders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like,
So,
I love. See, this is the stuff. This is the fascinating aspect around it. You know.
Because I know, like, a lot of people who identify as asexual or aromantic don't identify as straight, even if they're not bi. So they could like, for example, me being a cis woman, if I was only ever romantically attracted to men, then I still wouldn't class myself as straight because of the fact that I'm asexual. I don't feel sexual attraction all the time. So on that side, like, it would, like, people wouldn't be like, allosexual would just be straight people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, hold on. Let me pull up the definition. Allosexual: anyone who feels sexual attraction for other people is considered allosexual. Okay, so it literally is like the opposite end of the spectrum. So it's not just it's just anybody that has any kind of sexual desire. So okay, so from what I've like spoken to very briefly with other wonderful, I tried for these podcasts to come in as completely clueless as possible, because that way people are learning as I'm learning, which is great. I love this. The enthusiasm is great. But from what I understand from like an asexuality point of view, like there are some people out there that love sex, but it's not like they have a specific attraction to specific individuals. So it's not like, oh, look at that person over there. God, look at that jawline and the wonderful forearms. I hear that jawlines and veiny forearms are a big turn on to a lot of people. But you like having that moment and seeing those things, a lot of people get very hot under the collar, a little bit sweaty, a little bit, oh my lord, we're getting a bit hot, breathless, but other people are just like, no, I don't feel that for that aesthetic. It's not an aesthetic itself, but in regards to the actual act itself, game on.
Yep,
that kind of
pretty
thing.
much, yeah. Because like, I know so many people who are asexual. Like, they do not feel sexual attraction at all. They are completely on that end of the asexual spectrum, and they're sex positive. They're so sex positive. Like, they will literally just do it whenever. Especially having a partner and stuff. Sometimes like you find like a middle ground of like what you're comfortable with, and a lot of aces will still be like perfectly fine to have sex with their partner for their needs, as in like their partner's needs.
Yes. Yeah. Because this is definitely something that I'm very aware of, being the filthy deviant that I am, is the fact that like sex is a massive part of any relationship that I've been a part of, because I like it's less of a hobby and more of a way of life. Like, this is just
Yeah.
something that I'm not sure that I could be with somebody that didn't have that drive.
Yeah.
But then I also know I know of one couple that I can immediately think of where one of the pair is asexual and just doesn't have any kind of sexual drive themselves. But as a result, they've kind of got like I suppose the open relationship is the best way of putting it. They are dedicated to each other on a romantic level, but the partner that has no like urge to have sex understands that that is a need that the other person has, and therefore is like, you go do what you need to do with whoever you need to do it. Just be safe, just be careful. So long as you come back home to me, I'm fine with this. You know?
Exactly. And I think it's definitely all like a personal thing, like whatever works for you as both yourself and as a couple, or is whatever the open relationship is. It's definitely personal.
Yeah.
So whatever works for you, I guess.
And I think that's something that, realistically speaking, should be universalized. Is the fact that we shouldn't judge people based on we shouldn't judge other people's relationship based on our relationships, and vice versa. Like, I'm all too aware that of all the relationships I've had personally, they have been hugely different dynamics, different scenarios. Like, I think that's really important to say. Yeah.
I mean, like, I've only been in one relationship myself, and I ended up not being sexually attracted to him, but I was romantically attracted to him. But I ended it because I didn't feel like he was okay with that. And he was not one for communication. So
and communication is key. Like,
I absolutely need communication. It is so important in every aspect. But I wasn't comfortable with the fact that if he wanted that, he wasn't getting it. Not that he would communicate that anyway, but so I ended the relationship because I wasn't comfortable with what he wasn't getting for himself, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. And do you know what? That's very admirable. I was talking about relationships recently on Twitch, and it's very admirable that there are times when you realize, and it doesn't mean that you don't love that person. You could be completely and utterly in love with that person, but you realize that you are not compatible on the same wavelengths.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just because you love somebody doesn't mean that it's going to work.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Yeah, it's really admirable that you didn't just be like, do you know what, I'm going to keep plugging at this to try and make it work, even though it's not going to, especially if communication is an issue, because communication is like, it blows my mind now, especially being like a sex educator. It blows my mind that people don't talk. Like,
no, it bothers me so much, especially because of the fact that, like, so I understand why some people don't communicate because of past relationships where communicating hasn't gone well. So it's kind of like their own trauma, which is obviously something that they need to deal with, just like I have to deal with mine. But it's all very personal. It's all like, whatever works for you. But communication is so important in every relationship.
Especially if you've got a difference of dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
which is why, like,
how are you meant to know?
Yeah, literally, like, you're not going to be in a happy relationship at all if you're not communicating what you want out of the relationship.
Yeah. 100%. I'm even in filthy deviant relationships. Like, I've definitely been in scenarios where a lack of communication meant that things ended, and more to the point, things ended, and I was confused as to why they ended, because if they never communicated as to what the problem was, and therefore I was like, well, this came out of nowhere. Like, what's this all about, you know?
Kind of just like staying silent to like let it simmer in their own heads, and then kind of just ending it.
They didn't want to cause a fuss. That's always, I didn't want to hurt you. Well, now I'm even more hurt because you didn't want to hurt me.
Yeah. And I feel like that in itself is its own trauma thing. Like, they've obviously not communicated because of reasons that have happened beforehand where, like, that hasn't gone well. But again, like, if you're dealing with trauma like that, especially in a relationship, it does need to be worked through.
But, and I think that's probably where communication is more important.
Yeah.
Is the fact that if you don't have, like, how do you know where you are meant to stand if you don't have that communication? Yeah. And like I've especially recently, I remember being a young man and being full of all of the lusts. But even then, it was like, just take things slowly, see how it goes, make sure everyone's comfortable, make sure everyone knows what's going on, and like, sex was never the objective, if that makes sense. Like, I never went out to go have sex. I went to go have a good time with people, and if it involved sex, then that...
it was just a bonus.
Exactly. It's a huge bonus, a glorious, happy-go-lucky bonus, but, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking about, like, asexuality and demisexuality, does that kind of attitude resonate with you in regards to, like, going out and having a good time, and if there's sex, you enjoy it, or not, as the case may be?
For me personally, no. I usually, in fairness, I don't really leave my house to begin with, but unless I'm going to, usually the only time I leave my house now is when I'm going to a different country to meet up with friends. So, of all the places to go, but no, usually my brain is like, it's the last thing on my mind. I quite literally never think about it.
You take going on a night out to the next level. Just going on a night out in another country. That's
just popping over to England for a sec.
Just popping over. So it's only a plane ride. It's fine. It's great. It's all right. So it never enters your mind. You never.
No.
There's never a point where you're just like full of the God. I just need a good seeing to.
No, quite literally never. Which I mean, like, I'm okay with, but the amount of times I've mentioned that to people, and they're just like, "You must have so much time on your hands."
I mean, it does consume a lot of my life.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm just bored all the time. Because normally when other people are bored, they do that.
Yeah, I can see it the other way around, where it's like, where it's more a case of, just because you don't have a passion for sex, there are passions for other things.
Yeah.
Like, you could have a passion for space, or doing charity work like yourself, and doing bits and pieces. Like, just because you don't have that passion that's driving, and you're just going, do you know what? I need to do horrible things with another wonderful individual consensually. But it does mean you can be like, do you know what? Right, we're going to have a great time. We're going to do this stream. We're going to raise some money for whoever.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty much.
Is there anything that does fill that passion for you personally?
Usually art. I do a lot of painting.
Okay.
But you can't see them, but there's a lot of paintings in my room.
There are. For those people that are watching live on Twitch or seeing the VOD somewhere, yeah, there are paintings. I can see them. They're very beautiful. I like the paintings. They're very nice. There you go.
Also, space. You mentioned space. There's a space painting there, and there's like a couple on my shelf as well.
That's kind of why. That's why I said it. Yeah. I saw them and I was just like
snuck
space.
That in there.
It makes sense, you know. It makes complete sense. Oh lordy. Okay, so because you're quite open about being like demisexual, asexual, and what have you, I have to ask, and this is something because it makes me cringe in my soul. Have you ever had somebody say that they can fix you?
Yes.
Oh God, no, no!
So many times.
I can fix you.
It's disgusting.
It really is. It really, like, have you ever been put off someone so quick in your entire life?
Oh yeah, literally, that is probably one of the highest.
Just like
that,
no.
And I think the very first time that I ever came out as ace, somebody immediately was just like, if you ever get into a relationship, they're definitely going to cheat on you. So that was something.
What? The audacity! What happens if you get in a relationship with another ace individual? What about that?
Apparently that didn't cross their mind.
Because, you know, you are obviously the only person on the entirety of the asexuality spectrum in the entire world. Oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
I made the word up myself from myself.
Whoa. That is mind-blowing. Because this is the thing, like I know that there's a lot of people out there that use sex as a way of filling... almost like filling a void, whether it be like an intimacy thing or whether it just be like using it to distract them from other bits and pieces. And obviously there's like the long-term relationships that work really well, and the polyamorous relationships where the sexuality doesn't negate the emotions that they have with the other people that they're in a relationship with. But like the intimacy side of things, having spoken to some wonderful, amazing human beings, the intimacy side of things is like the key thing. But I know that some people get like fully aromantic and stuff like that. How do you feel about like the intimacy side of it? Do you ever like crave just having a bit of a cuddle with somebody?
Oh yeah, all the time. Literally, like cuddling is probably the thing I crave the most, other than food.
Other than food, food first.
Other than food. Yeah, food first,
so
then cuddles.
if they happen to be an A-grade chef and then provide you with cuddles, you're
yes,
like
exactly.
10 out of 10, A-grade, perfect, amazing, absolutely amazing. This is all new to and do you? So, what was it like when you first met like somebody else who was demisexual or on the asexuality spectrum?
It was actually, of all places, I found a group on Facebook. I don't go on Facebook anymore. I don't even use my Facebook account. But I found a group on Facebook that was just called Ace of Spades, which is literally what we ended up. We ended up creating like a WhatsApp group, and I think there was about 40 or 50 of us, and just called the Ace of Spades, where we would just like talk, like just literally just become friends. I'm still friends with one of them now, and I think this was created like 6 years ago. But yeah, we literally just started talking about like just general life things and becoming friends like through that. But it was very strange for me to know that there was actually like so many other people who had the same experiences that I did.
Yeah, because I would imagine that the vast majority of them also felt like they were somehow wrong or somehow odd in growing up. I'm using inverted commas for those people that are listening to the podcast. Like like having that, and then I suppose it's also quite a weight off the shoulders of being like, shit, not only am I not alone, but there's a cosmic fuck ton of us. There's
a lot.
There's a lot of it. Do you find that you all have like other common interests?
Usually, yeah. I think I've noticed that a lot of people who are on the ace spectrum just really like food. I've noticed that.
That's
almost every single person that I've met who's on the ace spectrum just really loves food.
I mean,
and not in like a bad way or anything. Just genuinely
a bad way?
Well, like in like the terms of like eating disorder kind of way.
Okay.
But like genuinely just likes food, likes either making food or eating food.
Lots of different flavors and stuff. I mean, there is studies dedicated to like the about different foods and the way that they affect like brain chemistry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know that chocolate has a big the grin that spread across your face. The grin that spread across your face there.
I'm not even kidding. I have a full drawer full of just chocolate.
That's amazing. I bought my first Easter egg today just because I wanted to experience. There's something about satisfying about a chocolate egg crunching that just it's. I don't know what it is. I'm not even like a big chocolate fan by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm allergic to chocolate, but I still eat it because it's chocolate. I'm not like deathly allergic to chocolate. It's just mild. But
I'm just mild. Is it kind of like those people with like lactose intolerance that are like, yeah, but tonight's a pizza night. Like
it's just like it's just some hives. It's fine.
It's just a bit of a jippy tummy for a while. It's okay. It's worth the sacrifice. It's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Oh my lordy, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. That's really interesting. I wonder whether there's been any like studies in regards to like the correlation between food, because food is a well-known hedonistic treat. Like,
Yeah.
there's when people think, and as somebody who is a hedonist, naturally, I've done a little research into it. Like, it is a big thing when people think about hedonists, and they think about like even like you're talking about like the orgies of ye olde Roman times and stuff like that. There was always a banquet. There was always loads of wine and food and indulgence. And
Yeah.
I wonder like whether that's down to the fact that there is like a correlation between the enjoyment of eating and maybe for some people, and I'm not obviously not by any stretch of imagination an expert, but maybe there's a correlation to that redirection of being like, do you know what? I don't need sex. Sex isn't something for me. It's not something that I'm even vaguely interested in unless it's potentially with somebody that you're emotionally involved in. But fuck me, food is wet.
Yeah, I've had this exact thought because I know that there's a meme specifically in the ace community where just everyone in the ace community likes cake. It's not the case, but so instead everyone just started like anybody who's like pan romantic and also on the ace spectrum, like because I use bi and pan.
Yes.
I kind of like just switch between whichever, but so I just jokingly call myself a pancake.
A pancake. I like that.
Yeah,
I've got a
'cause
t-shirt
pan and
that
cake.
says frying pansexual, and that makes me
Yeah.
very happy in my soul. Not gonna lie to
I
you.
love that so much.
It's great. It's
I have
glorious.
a lot of them in my wardrobe.
Yeah. Is there ever been a point where you've had to explain asexuality or demisexuality to somebody that would just wasn't getting it?
Yeah. They were pretty much just been like, well, yeah, but surely you feel this. And I'm like, no, that's the whole point. It's like they just don't understand because they feel it, so everyone must feel it. So they just didn't understand.
I've definitely met a hell of a lot of people like that in the past from every walk of life. Never mind the sexuality walk of life. But what do you mean?
Much.
I don't understand why you would do this. Well,
Yeah,
just because you are this way and you do these things doesn't mean that everybody is, you know? And this is why I love stuff like this. Is like the reason why I love sex and sexualities and stuff is because of the fact that it is so varied.
Yeah, it is.
And going full circle, like being brought up as a good old little Catholic schoolboy, there is like we get taught one thing when what was it, when a man and a woman love each other very much, they hug in a special way.
Yeah.
Wow, like that's
it's so bad.
But the thing is, there are religious communes out there that have like, I'm not gonna say who I think it is because I might be wrong, so I don't want to dox in the wrong one. But I definitely read an article where there was so much body shaming and sex shaming around this entire commune that when a man and a woman loved each other very much and they got married and did all the dutiful things, there would be like a sheet. They'd have, I think they called it like the coitus sheet or something like that. And the woman would lie down, get herself prepared, and the sheet would have a little hole in it which was just where the man was to do his thing, because they weren't allowed to look at each other.
Yeah.
But they needed to, it was their duty to have a baby. And that was mind-blowing to me, because that's that's not asexuality, because they are still sexual beings and may well still have the urges and stuff like that, but
yeah,
they are actively denying themselves that.
Yeah. So like celibacy.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people confuse asexuality and celibacy a lot.
Yes.
So just in case people are confused, celibacy is a choice. Asexuality is not. That's the difference.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Well, there's a lot in it, but that's the main difference.
But you can be asexual and celibate.
Yes.
So you can like just be like, do you know what? I don't have the sexual urges, but at the same time, I'm also choosing not to go forth with that.
Pretty
You
much.
know, because as we discussed earlier, you mentioned like the fact that you've got people that are sex repulsed as well. So people that just like find the entire concept of sex disgusting. Which, if we think about it, it is.
If you think about it in fine detail.
If you think about it in fine detail, it is pretty gross. You know.
But yeah, because I know I used to be so sex repulsed purely because obviously the whole Catholic thing, basically being taught that it is gross and that you should never do it unless you're married. Which I never liked that idea in general, even if I didn't want to have sex in general. I'm like, just do what you want. I don't care.
Have you ever felt that maybe part of that upbringing has influenced the way that you are as a demisexual?
I think it definitely did when I was younger, but now it doesn't. Now that I'm actually educated on the fact, or at least as much as I am now, I feel like I'm so much more open to talk about it. Like, I'm not even kidding. When somebody even brought up sex, my face would just go bright red. I would just feel so embarrassed, and I'd be like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, don't talk about it at all. No conversations, please.
I'm just like, I'm a child. Don't talk to me. But no, now I'm just like, I think because of the fact that I'm educated, especially on not only just the asexual spectrum, but just sex in general, sex ed in general, from what I've learned on the internet.
The good old internet.
I've also made sure that they're actually factual and not just like random facts that people made up.
Friends, just for all those young people out there that are obviously over the age of 18 because they're listening to this podcast. But for those people that are out there, you are not naturally meant to finish on someone's face unless they ask for it. Okay, that's not a go-to scenario. Okay, let's talk about these things. Conversations.
We go back to the communication.
Exactly, back to that communication. You know. Because that was a thing. Like, slight detour there is the fact that I found out that a lot of young people, when they're first going for coital engagement, like they think that that's what they're meant to do. Is they're everyone, because they've all got their sex education from pornography, and they're like, oh well, now's the point where I jizz on your face and we're done.
Yep,
done and dusted.
Done.
You know, way. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Out of interest, how was your... And this is where I really push the open book scenario to its limits. Like, how was your first experience having sex as an asexual? I
actually haven't.
You haven't had sex?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic.
Nope. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, obviously, there's some where I've like, I haven't actually done the whole sex thing.
Okay, so let's be a bit clearer on this. So you haven't had penetrative sex.
Yes.
But have you done other things?
Yeah. So like, I think it was like, I don't know. I've only been in one relationship. Granted, he lived in Michigan and I live in Ireland, so that was very long distance.
Yes.
So I only actually met him twice in person.
And if there was no communication there, that would add to the issues.
Yes. That definitely didn't help. But yeah, I don't know. It like certain things. Can't think of the word for it. My mind is going blank.
Certain things instigated were encouraged.
Yes. My mind is genuinely just going blank, and I don't know.
It's okay.
But yeah, so like certain things. But it was because of the fact that it was all consensual. It was communicated. Everything. It actually wasn't bad. Like, it was enjoyable. But at like once it gets to like after that, like actual penetrative stuff, like my brain's just like, nah, I'm done at that point. I don't want that. At least
which is
not
fair.
Purely because I wasn't sexually attracted to him.
Yeah.
Which he knew. I will clarify. He knew that. I communicated that very well. I made sure that he knew that.
Out of interest,
Not in like a mean way of like, I'm not sexually attracted to you, get away from
well,
me kind of thing.
this is what I was about to say, is that he's like, how, as some, like, because you've mentioned that they weren't particularly a communicative individual. Do you know how that made him feel in regards to, because like, I mean, you might have guessed, being called Valen Vain, aesthetics are very like a big thing for me. And I'm not sure how I would feel if somebody was like, hey, by the way, I am not sexually attracted to you. Like somebody that I was actively with, you know?
Yeah. Well, it was more like I wouldn't specifically say it like that. I'd be like, this is before we even started dating. He knew that I was on the A spectrum.
Yeah.
And I did tell him that it would take a while and it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
But because I was romantically attracted to him, that's why we started dating. And he said that he was perfectly okay with that, but it's kind of like his actions or the way that he would say or do things that kind of showed otherwise, which I picked up, even though he wouldn't communicate that.
So how do you feel about, like, if you were to get with somebody else on that romantic level, but they had that urge to be like to have full-blown penetrative sex, say?
Yeah.
How would you feel about that? I realize that this isn't a situation that's arisen, but out of in theoretical scenarios, how would you feel about that?
I think if it wasn't the case where I wasn't sexually attracted to him, I would communicate that, and I would be like, I'm not up for that. It's either the case of like just waiting until I am, or there would be no relationship. Because ever since my last relationship, I have always said like, I'm not going to date anybody until unless I know for sure that I'm sexually attracted to them as well, or they're on the A spectrum, so that they would fully understand how I'm feeling.
What if they, and again, I'm just going with hypotheticals here, what if they were, like, what happens if the scenario was there, it was like, okay, I'm really romantically attracted to you, but I have needs. Would you be comfortable with them getting with other people, or are you very much monogamous?
I'm very monogamous, honestly. I wish that I wasn't, purely because if I was romantically attracted to somebody, obviously I like them a lot. And I want them to be happy in whatever way that they need to be.
Yeah.
But my brain is very much monogamous.
And there's no judgment here by any stretch of imagination. But it's always nice to explore the possibilities there, which explains why you're like, you know what, I need to be with somebody that I'm either sexually attracted to, or that you feel so strongly about that there's a potential there, I suppose, or like you say, or another wonderful ace person who gets it on the same wavelength that you're on, you know. Which, and I know a couple of people that are in ace relationships where the pair of them are both asexual and they eat food and cuddle all the time. So you know,
the perfect one.
Exactly. I've got a couple of questions here, so if you'd indulge me. We've got, while I'm not ace myself, I have a lot of non-sexual sensations that I love. Food for sure is one, but I also love, like, lush bath products. Aside from food and other non-sexual hedonistic pleasures, what other non-sexual hedonistic pleasures do you like?
I don't know if this is on the same level as food, but I love traveling.
Okay.
Like, traveling gives me the same, well, maybe like a little bit less than food does.
Just like experiencing new cultures, or is it just like the sensation of being on the road?
I think just moving, just like constantly going somewhere new.
Okay.
Even though I have anxiety, so on the anxiety side is like, no, don't go anywhere you don't know. So I will only meet up with people. I will only travel if I'm meeting up with people. But traveling I love traveling.
Because I was about to say, at the beginning of this podcast, you literally were like, I never leave the house.
unless I'm going to another country, pretty much,
Going for an extreme night out and jumping on a plane and going to see people. That's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, traveling makes sense. Why? Again, I suppose it's that exploration. Because I kind of have that, but with sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have the exploration side of things where I love to find out the pleasures and the extremities of those pleasures. This is the reason why I'm a hedonist, because I just don't understand why people wouldn't follow their pleasure. For me, it's sexual deviance. For yourself, it's traveling and food.
Yep.
And cuddles. You know? Which is grand.
Can't forget about the cuddles.
Can't forget the cuddles, no. Which is great, because, and especially in this day and age as well, like where I feel like we're in like a sexual revolution almost, in the fact that you can have cuddles with friends. Like I know a few people that are just like, hey, can I come round and we'll just cuddle and watch some movies? And they're just platonic friends. It's just that they like to have that closeness, and that is amazing. It's fantastic, because I, as a 34-year-old beautifully youthful man, could never imagine like messaging a friend and being like, hey, could we just cuddle for a while?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I've actually done that. Not like specifically message people to go around to their house to cuddle, but like especially when I travel to the US, I do have like a few friends who we do that. Like we'll just literally just cuddle and watch movies. And it's really cute.
Do you know, it's really bizarre though, because like when I was a teenager, I remember going to like house parties and getting all smashed and very drunk, and then funnily enough, usually in Ireland, and we'd all just end up in a big pile, just all cuddling together and watching some crap movie or something.
A cuddle puddle, if you will.
A cuddle puddle. I believe we call it a snuggle pile in my community, but it's all
I love
works,
that.
you know. Okay, got another question for you.
Yes.
Being asexual, have you ever found issues with the subject of masturbation? I feel that's something a lot of people outside of asexuality are genuinely curious about.
Not really. I think it's again, it would depend on like whether somebody would be sex repulsed or not. I think if a lot of people who are sex repulsed don't even masturbate.
Yeah.
They just don't like the concept at all. But I don't know. I don't. Me personally, again, like I don't think about it at all. So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't personally, but like a lot of people who are demi who are sex positive will.
And there's also a thing to be said there. That there's a lot of people that are allosexual and do enjoy sex but don't like masturbation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a result of body shaming. They're ashamed of their own bodies. Sometimes it's a result of their upbringing and like the fact that it's not necessarily body shaming. It's just not something that's done. Sometimes it's just the fact that it's not the same without somebody else being there.
Yeah.
You know?
Like they kind of need like that intimacy to even want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, which I suppose falls into that demisexuality thing. Even if only a little bit, it's that whole I need that connection. I need that emotional value with a person to make it worthwhile, you know?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, okay, so last thing, because that was a great little question there. Last thing in regards to pleasure, then, because I would like to think that the vast majority of people in the world have sex for pleasure, and naturally, pleasure is where I'm at. Hedonism, follow pleasure. Do you like in your experiences, like you say, you've done other things, even if it's not penetrative sex or sex in general, you've done other bits and pieces. Did you get like the sense of pleasure doing those things?
So a little bit, but honestly, I get bored of it very quickly.
You get bored of it?
Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but my brain just is just like, yeah, this isn't fun anymore.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to me with my body, because that, like, I'm levels of indulgence, it's unreal. Like, but is it just like, oh, this is alright, I suppose? Like, washing my hands with warm water, it's quite pleasant, but nothing, like a nice hot shower, delightful.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Interesting.
But again, like, that would depend on, like, person to person. That's just for me.
Yeah, no, I think it probably will depend person to person, because obviously everybody's bodies are different. There are some people out there that are oversensitive, some people that don't have the sensitivity, some people that maybe it's the brain connection. And I've talked about it a lot before, where it's like your brain can be fully in like, game on, let's do this, and your body's just like, no.
It's like,
Well,
I'm gonna take a break.
yeah, I'm just gonna chill. I've definitely been in scenarios where I've been like, let's go, and my body's going, what? You want me to do what now? No, not,
Not right now.
not
Maybe
feeling it
later.
today. That's not a thing. And I'm like, why, body? But why? You know, and vice
Yeah.
versa. Bodies can be super reactive and being like, do you know what? Let's go, game on. And your brain's just like, I wonder what I'm having for tea later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of those scenarios, you know? Well, that was amazing. Thank you very much, Becca Beckery, you beautiful individual.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed this. Like, my brain has been opened to all kinds of new horizons, and I'm super intrigued by them. But thank you very much for agreeing to come on and
Yeah,
say
thank you
hi
for having
and
me.
do all the bits and pieces, you know, and indulge me in all of my questions. And also, massive thank you for being such an open book and being open and honest with me
course.
and the wonderful listeners, you know. Before we go anywhere, I'd like to shout out some thank yous to people, to say a massive thank you to all these glorious individuals. First of all, to Alexander Devenport, who has made these wonderful aesthetics that those people who are watching the VOD can see at the moment. A massive thank you to Mountain Goat, who made the audio for the theme tune. Sing the theme tune, be the theme tune. And of course to Kate Sway, who made the glorious intro graphic. And of course, the glorious, the amazing, the wonderful Becca Beckery, you beautiful individual. Spectacular specimen of humankind. Could you do me a massive favor and tell people where they can find you, please?
Yeah, my name is just Becca Beckery, BeckeRy on everything,
On everything.
pretty much. Yep, on everything.
What
I've
is
been
the- what's
lucky
the-
enough to make up a name that nobody's taken.
Entirely fair. Entirely fair. What is the next project for you?
Currently, I'm on a little bit of a hiatus while I try and figure out somewhere to move. So it's more just a region area or region thing. So once I do that, I will definitely just be doing a lot more charity streams. Hopefully,
Do you have a charity in mind for who's next, perhaps?
St. Jude. I do one for St. Jude every year, which is a charity in the US that raise money for, or that a hospital that helps kids with cancer.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. That's really
It's
nice.
a wonderful charity.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. For people, because I keep forgetting to give myself an outro, so I'm gonna remember to do that today. I've got a little tick list next to me. All right. I'm Valen Vain, Vain by name, Vain by nature. You can find me on all of the social media platforms apart from YouTube. On at Valen Vain, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. You can find me on all of them. You glorious individuals. And yeah, thank you very much again, Becca, you beautiful
Thank you.
individual. That's been
Thank you for
Thirsty
having me.
Work, and we will see you all later, you beautiful hedonists.